So this is the first time I'm remembering to not say good morning. Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody, and all of you are joining us online, of course, as well. I'm really happy to be here. We have a very spread out spiritual community on Vancouver Island, and I just love the opportunities to be everywhere, up and down the island. Yeah, I'll be in Victoria in April and back up on Comox Valley in March, and so, yeah. And thank you, Josh. I asked Josh if he would learn this song for me or for this time in the service, and he just, just went along with it and said, of course, I would be happy to. So thank you so much, Joshua. Yeah. Yeah. A couple of weeks ago, Reverend Thomas spoke about abundance. And so it's not a quiz, I'm not gonna, do you remember exactly what he said? But it was something about abundance, and I know that he mentioned the kingdom of heaven. And that got me thinking a little bit more about that topic. And it came to me also that I don't often reevaluate or review what I've learned, particularly in the spiritual realm. I study something like prosperity or prayer or forgiveness, and then I think, got it. So this got me thinking about abundance, this Thomas's words. And then a quote just happened to come across the front of my attention, and it was from Myrtle Fillmore. And this is it. She says, Myrtle Fillmore, co-founder of Unity, "You have access to the rich ideas of divine mind. Enrich your consciousness by incorporating rich ideas into it." I thought, okay, it's time to revisit this topic. Abundance, prosperity. I've noticed we use those words a lot, and we often use them interchangeably. So what's the difference? Or does it matter? Does it matter? Well, to me, it does, because I like to be clear about, at least in my own mind anyway, what I'm talking about, what I'm thinking about. So this is my current understanding. It could change. And I'm okay if you've got a different understanding, perfect. Just give it some thought. I guess that's the main idea. Just give it some thought. We know that from our first two principles that there is one source everywhere present, and our second principle, we are one with that everything, which means that we are always in the midst of all that is. Think of the universe. Picture the vastness of the cosmos, the countless stars, the infinite galaxies. Do we see scarcity there? Do we see limitation there? No. We see boundless expansion, endless creativity, an inexhaustible source of life and energy. And we, as creations of the same divine life, are expressions of this very source. We are inherently one with it. So I call that infinite supply that we are one with abundance. And when I experience abundance on the material plane in my own life, I call that prosperity. So for me, prosperity is an outward sign of an inner principle. And it's okay to be prosperous. Myrtle Fillmore did not see material prosperity as separate from spiritual growth. She understood that when we prosper in all ways, we can live more fully, serve more effectively, and express our divine potential more completely. And we also know that while material things are indeed part of the abundant life, it is, so much more than our bank account or our car or where we live. It is a state of consciousness, a divine flow that impacts every aspect of our being, our health, our relationships, our joy, our peace, and yes, also our material needs. Myrtle Fillmore understood this profound truth deeply. And although she faced numerous challenges, both financially and health-wise, she didn't pray for prosperity. She prayed from a consciousness of abundance. I don't know if you can sense the difference in that. She was recognizing this inherent quality of the divine within her. But what caught my attention about that Myrtle quote was her speaking about the richness of ideas. Enrich your consciousness by incorporating rich ideas. So I believe, or I'll speak for myself, I can easily get stuck in my own thinking, in my own perceptions. And as long as, well, I'll just make it I. As long as I think I know, there is no room for a new idea. It's like just closing the door, got this, I understand. There's no room for a new idea, a rich idea to come into our consciousness. So how open are we to new ways of thinking? Are we like Charles Duell, the director of the U.S. Patent Office, who in 1899 said, "Everything that can be invented has been invented"? Or like Harry Warner, Warner Brothers, the movie company, who in 1927 said, when approached by someone who had a new idea, he said, "Who the heck wants to hear actors talk?" That is not an open mind. So our experience of abundance requires us not only to align ourselves with this divine flow, but to open our hearts and our minds to receive the goodness that is already there, and that includes rich ideas. Think of abundance as a blueprint of perfection, the divine template for a life lived in joy, in peace, in fulfillment, and overflowing prosperity. Jesus called this the kingdom of heaven. So I did a little research, so easy these days, and found out that Jesus gave 23 parables to trying to explain what the kingdom of heaven was. And he started with analogies that people could relate to, that the kingdom of heaven is like a net thrown into the sea. And there's, more. These are like the leading lines. They're like workers in the vineyard. They're like a hidden treasure. They're like the pearl of great price. They're like the mustard seed. Maybe you're familiar with some of these stories. Over and over again, 23 times, he's trying to explain what the kingdom of heaven is. But if we think about it, he's trying to describe or teach something that no one has ever thought about before, that no one has ever heard before. So like any good teacher, he is thinking of multiple ways to communicate this idea with those around him. And finally, when he was asked, "When will the kingdom of heaven come?" he says, "The kingdom is coming, but not in a way that you will be able to see with your eyes." People will not say, "Look, here it is," or "There it is," because the kingdom of heaven is within you. And honestly, this Rumi quote just came this morning. Why are you so enchanted by this world when a mine of gold lies within you? The spiritual dimension that is always accessible lies within us. It is the realm of divine mind, divine ideas, infinite potential. It is not a place of lack or limitation, but a realm of infinite possibility. If we want to stay, open to this infinite flow, then we need to let go of limited thinking and limited living. So I thought, I heard this one time, it's like standing under a waterfall, like just standing under a waterfall and holding a teaspoon out and complaining, how come I only have this much? Right? When we could have something bigger. Or I don't know if you've listened to, there's a great New Thought singer-songwriter, and she said one time she was down at the wharf watching the fishermen, and this fellow pulls up, nice little fish, good, keeps it, pulls up another one, good, keeps it, pulls up a big one, throws it back. Another couple small ones, another big one, throws it back. So she said, "Why are you throwing the big fish back?" And he pulled out of his backpack his frying pan, and he said, "Because this is the size of my frying pan." And she said, "Get a bigger pan." It's a great song, if you want to look it up sometime. Get a greater pan, get a better, bigger pan. So how do we move from this consciousness of lack and limitation to a consciousness of overflowing prosperity? How do we make this spiritual reality a tangible experience in our lives? Well, it begins, as all spiritual transformation does, and you've heard this a million times, guess where? Within. In our thoughts, our beliefs, our feelings, that's where it starts. So I thought of 3 ways, and I hope you can add to these for yourself. The first was to spend time in the silence. Align ourselves with spirit, divine mind, whatever you want to call it. Replace any doubts that pop up of unworthiness. Replace those with love. Replace limitation with limitless possibility. Open up to the expansiveness of infinite supply. When we receive a divine idea, move forward in partnership with God, with Spirit, and start to live it. So this was kind of a big deal or a big enlightening moment I had when I was at Unity Village and I was becoming a licensed Unity teacher. And kind of spent one of those dark nights of the soul in this beautiful 24-hour chapel at Unity Village. And I just thought, what am I doing? Like, I just think of all the teachers that went before me, and now I'm going to be a licensed Unity teacher. Like, kind of who do I think I am kind of thing to be able to do this. And I thought, I'm not leaving here until I get an answer to that. So many tears, and luckily I was the only one in the chapel. So like 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11, midnight, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. And finally I got the message, which for me was, I am staying open to spiritual guidance, and when I get it, I'm going to act on it. It's a contract. It's a 2-part deal. Because you can receive all the divine inspiration you want and do nothing with it, and you are not going to change, and therefore you are not going to show up differently in the world, and the world is not going to change because of you, which is what our job here is. So that was the deal. I'm going to keep my ears open, my inner ears, my spiritual ears and eyes, and when I hear something, I'm going to say, okay. And that included me, Joseph and I, moving to Comox Valley to become the spiritual leader there. It's included lots of big things in my life, even if they sounded scary. So how can we incorporate a new idea into our lives? Well, have you ever seen how a 2-year-old approaches a new way of being? If you try to help them learn to tie their shoelaces or to zip up their zipper, what do you usually get met with? No, I do it, right? I do it, which is appropriate for a 2-year-old. They are learning so much about how they are in the world. However, I don't feel it's an appropriate stance for me to take as an adult. Because you know what? We can live our lives like that, always on our own. I'll do it my way. I don't need any help. We can do that. Lots of us probably have done that for a long time. Or we can realize that we're stuck, perhaps, not making that personal, that there's something wrong with us. Everybody, I was just going to say, you want to raise your hands, but I'm pretty sure everybody in this room and everybody out there has felt stuck at some time in their lives. It happens to all of us. So to stop when we feel a little bit stuck and ask for and accept the spiritual guidance and support that we get. And when we do that, we will find that we are plugged into the abundant source, and those rich ideas will flow. Secondly, we remember that prosperity is not just about receiving, it is also about giving. The flow of abundance moves equally in both directions. So when we hold on tightly to what we have, we are actually blocking or making it very difficult for that flow to come into our lives. But when we open our hands, our minds, our hearts to give generously, to share the blessings that we have received with others, we create even more space for the abundance to flow into our lives. And remember that giving is not always about money. It can be our time, our talent, our love, our kindness, our compassion. It can be offering someone a helping hand or a listening ear, a word of encouragement. Those things are precious. Money can't buy them. It's probably the most impactful way that you can give. And the third thing is, I'm sure that you would have guessed it if I gave you a moment, gratitude. I came across this recently. It's so amazing how, this is why I really do appreciate the invitation to speak now and then, because once a topic comes, it's like all this stuff follows. So this is something I came across I thought was really meaningful. Gratitude is the fertile soil on which abundance takes root and flourishes. Gratitude is a fertile soil in which abundance takes root and flourishes. Myrtle Fillmore looked at our minds like gardens. She spoke about this quite often, and that the thoughts that we plant are the seeds that blossom into our experience. She cautioned us to be careful what kind of seeds we plant. Were we planting seeds of abundance or seeds of lack? Gratitude is like a magnet, right? It just attracts more things that we can be grateful for. So take time every day, I know that you know this, to count your blessings, to express gratitude for the good that you have already experienced in your lives, your health, your loved ones, your home, the beauty of nature, the simple joys of everyday living. I remember one time when I was many years ago, my children were small, and I was a single mom, and I worked like 4 or 5 part-time jobs. And I was always dropping off somebody, picking up somebody, and it's just crazy, crazy, crazy life. And I cannot remember how the universe, engaged in this way, but I ended up in my house by myself, which never, ever happens. And I had like 20 minutes or something like that. And so I laid on the couch. I had this great magazine, it's still out, Simple Living, is that what it's called? It's a great magazine anyway, which I never had time to read. And I laid on the couch in the sun and was reading this magazine. And I remember thinking, this is prosperity. What a gift. When we understand that abundance is not something we strive for, but something to awaken within ourselves, we unlock that ever-flowing river of divine good that really is who we are and is our spiritual birthright. So I invite you to cultivate a consciousness of abundance by affirming our inherent abundance, prosperity, giving generously and joyfully from our hearts, practicing gratitude for all of our blessings, great and small, and trusting in the divine flow, even amidst challenges.